Hi guys, welcome everyone. Today we are celebrating two things. First of all, that Leeds United won the league and will be in the Premier Division this year. And second is that we have a great session with Rhys Trimble. So now we'll start hearing and talking with him. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to my very... Oh, could you let me do screen sharing?
Okay. Wait a second, please.
Is a beautiful Fender guitarist.
What, the bass?
Oh, it's a bass. Oh, God.
Yeah, the bass. I know that. So, yes, here's my very serious presentation, which I'm going to call The Linguistics of Virology, or maybe it's called Kleist or Concordance. Diversified to language, phospholipid. Language, temporo, voluntary, China arms and RNA of language viruses, the long-living Scully and Americana, and the impediments, English, speech, paperback, located, ethnic, march, processes, lingualism, lingualism as correct in the binding domain, Price, wound, hospital, bat of tongues, language against destructive Wisconsin, a cluster assimilation. A cluster assimilation, marathon runner, frame substance, provides loose spikes, proteinaceous, means together, verse, Miami, Christ, Latina, learned to batter tongues, clear in cases, and something the like of cluster assimilation marathon runner phrase substance cluster assimilation marathon runner frame substance a cluster assimilation marathon runner the spike, a place, a claw, a place, a place, a plastic amyl, nucleocapsid, envelope, capsid, hemagglutinin, esterase, anoid, substance, cluster, assimilation, marathon runner, frame, substance. Language, happiness, century cardboard, longing, what intellectual to sense and breakfast, phase, membrane is breakfast, capsid in which RNA is breakfast, capsid in which Gravities, membrane and covidae. Natural circulation, animal boosts human to human transmission of it replicates that of conformation and streamrollers. Cov located ethnic march possesses Cov is processes confirmation is Cov crisis camel we definitely begin conquest unidentified grouping unidentified language pangolin narratives SARS camel civets Wuhan several teeth and in hijacked show no coronavirus declaring through language instruments and should be protein strikes a capsid in which a capsid finger and I make for protein strikes. Orthodontist annotated guard. Orthodontist annotated. Light on light on light on light the vital kinship story replicates a gravity and covidae. Ego and gravity and covidae. Ja, jullie worden naast. Is the value of in language we drink. Ja, jullie worden naast. Is the value ja, jullie worden naast. Is de value
Woo! fantastic.
Fucking great.
Fantastic.
Nice. Thanks very much. It
Thank
was
you,
nice.
Rhys. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Beautiful.
Go on, more.
More. Yeah.
Yeah.
Minutes.
Do you want to ask us some questions?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to comment firstly. I totally engage with that kind of processing. It's amazing, and I love how much you can do with your delay, looping, and the pitch modulation. Is fantastic. I think it's always great. I just love it. And I wanted to ask Grace where the texts come from, and what's the processing with the words he used for this piece.
Yeah, great. I wanted to explain that. So I got this. Oh, let me do share screen again. So. Yeah, so this one, because language is a virus from outer space, is like a bit of Burroughs quote or something. So I did something quite Burroughsian. So I took this paper, Virology, Epistemology, Pathogenesis and Control of COVID-19, from which I took the pictures as well. And then I mixed it with this thing which is talking about, you know, why language of the virus is quite like a persuasive or interesting phrase. So it discusses certain papers, and then I threw in some text from this, which is it's a concordance, which is like, you know, I'm sure, like an alphabetical list of lines of poetry from medieval Welsh, and I looked for the word clais, which is a wound or an illness. So that because of the orality of the Welsh, I always like to include. So there's clais or drais or draws, a anwyd, which then becomes a mantra like. So I mixed up, and I turned it into a let me see, a text, and then I dropped it into PowerPoint, so it looked like a kind of scientific presentation, whatever.
And you take the text from there and just to read like you're writing with like the screen is like a kind of continuous process, like what is a kind of translation from science to poetry. What is the passage between them? You know, like the road.
I just mixed them with an, you know, if you type in Katab, you get to a website called coincidentally.
You have a filter on the voice. And
Yeah.
We didn't ask here because you have a filter in the voice. I don't know if that.
Oh yeah, it might be going backwards. Yeah. Yeah, I dropped it into an online cut-up thing. So I dropped the science and the literary paper into this thing, and then you just hit cut up and it mixes it up, and then I selected particularly phrases that mixed up the science and the literature. So it gives you like an output text which is like the sum of the two papers, which is you know, thousands of words, and then I just picked out the ones where they were sort of moving from literary or linguistic analysis into science and backwards,
Mm.
and just things that sounded interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and then your reading is like according to a kind of vibration, a kind of idea, like to communicate, to transpose, to tell, to create. What is your pneuma? Your
Like,
pneuma?
yes, a gleaming pneuma. Yeah. It's like a jam or a ritual. So
Mm.
sometimes I use this thing. When I got no people, I use this thing, noise machine, which you can set it running, and it just evolves. It changes, so it gives you something to uh, react to. But then it always becomes a kind of mantra. I don't know whether it's dictating or whether it's creating a field. Yeah, it's kind of it's improvisatory in that it tries to be in the moment, like a ritual, I think.
Yeah, like
So,
not thinking about it, not preparing, like doing, nor.
yeah, obviously I prepared some text so I can have something solid to hang on to. Because yeah, you get poets like David Antin and people, you know, I'm sure it's quite a recognized kind of poetic, isn't it? That you just come up with something off the top of your head. And I find I can't do that myself. So I have to have text to hold on to, but my mind is completely blank, and I try and um, become one with the moment. So um,
And Rhys, when you were reading, were you reading from that scientific text, or you were reading from what you prepared? Were you
yeah,
making analysis from those pages that you showed, or you were just going through the text?
yeah. I was going through the presentation, and then I went off. I've usually got like books lying around, so I've got this, which is like a completely different text, which is Taliesin, who says, "I am this and I am that." It's a very easy thing to put into your text. So, and then I've got other books here, but yeah, I mainly stuck to the script, but I jumped around a lot, and I reorganized it in the moment, you know. Yeah. So
Yeah, Rhys, that it was um, reminding me of actually much older work of yours. And by the way, I'm very pleased to be here. And yeah, so thanks for letting me in. And so I'm from Wales, so I know Rhys's work quite well. And
yeah, very well.
I'm thinking of a poem like Blodeuwedd from and that connection that you were making there, that's trying to kind of old Welsh texts and a background, is your background's in way back is in biochemistry, isn't it? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so, I mean, I was very interested in what you were yeah, putting language in relation to this idea of humans and animals as a, you know, sort of thinking about their, I suppose, the ecological relationships of humans and viruses, but also it's language that is said to separate animals and humans. And I mean, that seemed to be a set of ideas you've been working around for quite a long time. I mean, it's quite different here, but do you see a continuity, or?
Now that you mention it, yeah, because
Yeah.
I have got I got a degree in science, and yeah, I would say it doesn't come into the poetry, except it obviously does, doesn't it? And in the sense that I like algorithmic things, and there's like a scientific kind of philosophy underneath it. Yeah, so that story, Bloody, where there's like mixing scientific terminology with like mythology, and obviously I was green lighted to do that by people like Jeremy Brin or whatever, who's got these cut-ups, we presume, made out of scientific text.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I accounted these things because there was a phase when everybody's using, the poem and stuff, and I found it quite funny because if you've worked in science, it's not quite as, romantic, evocative. If you've seen what happens in a lab, it's quite sort of prosaic. But yeah, to run those two registers together is like a continued interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because scientific like papers are so prosaic, but yeah, they can be made lyrical by recontextualizing them, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah. But I suppose it's also there are I mean there are the stories within a culture also that become quite linear, like the myth of Blodeuwedd, and those sort of old stories, but also the idea of, yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
But also, yeah, the idea of the wound. So so that's quite a kind of heavy symbol to put in there, but then work across it algorithmically, and it breaks it down, and it stops it having this sort of linear relationship in a story, and connects it outwards to lots of other ideas. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I like that that Welsh usage of as clais, as wound, for disease.
Mm-hmm.
So, they'll say in Welsh, it's almost literary to say dyna'r clais, and they might be talking about HIV or something, and to turn illness into this like noun almost is quite interesting.
Yeah. Great. No, thank you.
Yeah.
You have some question to ask us, Rhys, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to show you something else. I wanted to ask everybody's opinion about improvisation and the relation of that to ritual. And so what I've been doing recently is to try and
Mae'r lais, Bendigade, Franwen, Trickstrix, shock and psychical. I want to relate why Crore in association, sun
so I wanted
with
to
glow, a vein of light,
take my performances and like
extending east beyond.
Try to link them to my literary work.
Beyond love, I lose my sweet for you, untable kitten, blue colled, bullish mush, erect, zizek, ilduma, shawl, assimilate, Toblerone, societal.
Yeah, so that's what my gigs are like, and then I try to I've tried to like transcribe them then into texts then, because usually they are made up of other texts. Yeah, that one there is a performance that I then transcribed into this sort of poem, which has got lots of different elements in it. So that's in Istanbul, and I got somebody suggest a title, and somebody suggested Ottoman Love as a title, and I just, like 2 minutes before the performance, and I've got that thing to hang it on then, and then I read out lots of different texts, and then I try and transcribe it into a poem. So kind of like what David Antin does or whatever, but yeah, I'm trying to take the performance side and the book side and unify them by transcribing one into the other. And
but I saw a little bit that you work also with like elements, like to make some poetic acts in the river, in the lake. The other day you say I have not more phone because I lost my phone in my last action poetry in the river. When I threw out so many, I don't know what kind of money did you send in that river. Can you talk us or show us something about it?
That was. There's a film of that. I'm trying to find it, but it was. This is a friend's performance, really, but and she was trying to do like a Fluxus thing, so she or something like the KLF. So she got lots of £5 notes, £250 worth, and threw them in the sea. And I sort of took it up upon myself to hijack it a bit. So I went into the sea, and Zoe was there as well. It was where Zoe lives, actually, in Menai Bridge, and I waded in, and I got a bit of seaweed, and I recited poetry to it. There's a film. Hang on.
It's very good. I don't think it was filmed, Rhys.
There is a film of it.
Yeah, there's little bits of it filmed, but it was really just an event, and it was about the brutalities we go through to get arts funding. I think that was the the starting point.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what your approach to the kind of elements of nature, like rivers, lakes, stars, comets? What is your connection between your shamanic side and your scientist side? What is your? I don't know. I don't really know you personally, but I feel you really close in some time of rehearsal. Kind of shamanic and music vibration and work with elements of the universe, like pre-Socratic poets, in a way that kind of philosophy and poetry, the natural philosophy in a way. And how do you feel connection? You talk already about that kind of white light inside, that kind of void that you feel in a moment to like perceive and transmit things, like mic and speaker at the same time. I don't know what is that connection in you, how you feel it.
Yeah, it's like I think when I was a scientist, I was still not a scientist. Yeah, like to be a scientist is not to be pre-Socratic, but enlightenment, and I don't think I could cope with it. with being a scientist, it seemed very opposed to what my instinctual philosophy was. But I liked the language of it, yeah, and then later on I tried to co-opt scientific language for shamanic purposes, and it's interesting. I find it quite difficult to make a very fluent meta commentary on anything, because like it has to be like a performance for me. Like I can't step outside it very well. And I was going to ask people about that. What is it about improvisation that is, as Martin is saying, is making and doing at the same time, and
thinking and making at the same time, not distinction between thinking and being, you know, like that kind of connection of being and thinking and laughing, and, you know, and make a joy in a way. That kind of philosophy of natural philosophy, you know, that is why I talk about Empedocles or like Proclus, that kind of first poet, where philosophy and poetry and nature were the same. You know, when astronomy and astrology were the same thing, when shamanism and medicine was the same state. And sometimes I saw in your work that kind of connection between orality and writing in a way, you know, like kind of writing with I don't know, with actions, not only with words, not only with pencils.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to do this thing of like I do compose like normally, but like in performance something else seems to happen, so I'm trying to like write down the performances, so record them and then try and transcribe the performances, so I'm able to translate some of these gestures into just a text.
Do you think it's possible to transcribe bird flight?
Bird flight.
Because do we define bird flight or bird song? Incidentally, for me, bird song is an original poetry. But is it possible, or does it make sense rather to talk about bird flight in terms of improvisation? I love your work. I really love every performance I've seen of yours, Rhys. Incidentally, as Zoe said before, it's lovely to be in this group. Thank you very much. And also, incidentally, if I leave at any time, it's because I'm not feeling too well this evening. But I'm wondering why there's a problem about the term improvisation. It's what you do wonderfully. Am I just being too simple?
Yeah, I don't know. I just find it quite difficult to explain. Like with birdsong, I would say it'd be quite difficult, even though I've actually tried to do it. I've tried to write down what birdsong sounds like, you know, like Messiaen tries to do. And there's other poets who try and write down what birdsong is, but like, if you're not physically involved in it, can you transcribe it? I don't know. It's all very broad.
Albert Rhys works on that a lot, on different birds and bird song, basically at different times of the day.
What do they do?
Albert Pellissier, in the performance and in his poetry, he uses a lot of bird song, and he does a lot of research about birds and the kind of sound and notation and sawing and everything, and then he translates that and writes based on the note and the sound and the bird and the information about the bird, and makes performances and writings about that. He should explain. That's my understanding of his work.
Sounds cool. Yeah, I've not heard of him, but yeah, what comes to mind is like
I write his
small
name.
Can you write it in the chat? Yeah.
Sure.
I wanted to comment something, Rhys. Well, I enjoyed very much the performance, and I had like two comments. The first one is funny when someone watches a performance, because there's no there's no way to know exactly if you're improvising or maybe performing or playing from memory. I mean, you could move and provoke the effect that you're improvising, but maybe you're not. And the same can be in the other sense. I mean, you can have a score in front of you or a text, and you maybe are reading something completely different. So I like very much this relationship that you think you are watching a performance, and in some ways you are like making us think, of course. And also in every performance there are some controlled elements, of course. I mean, there are some previous decisions that you made before, and there's always like a percentage, I think, of improvisation and memory or fixed elements or decisions. I mean, just the election of some kind of microphone or effect previous to the performance is a decision. So I like very much this oscillation. And of course, I mean, a classical pianist can be playing from a score where everything is reading, but there will always be some little variation. So I like very much that. And the other thing that I want to comment and also ask you is that you were talking about this relationship between rituals and improvisation, and it made me think that there are some rituals, if you like to call them that, in that way, which are really fixed and where you have to repeat the same each time. I was thinking, I mean, a Catholic Mass or a Christian Mass is very fixed. There's no too much place for improvisation, for example. But there are some other rituals, more pagan or from other religions of kinds of spirituality, that are very much open. So it's, yeah, maybe you could call a mass more like a ceremony. I don't know. You can play with the words, but it's funny that that it works in that way. I don't know what you think about this couple of ideas.
Yeah, this is good. So yeah, it seems to be like with improvisation, there's always a relationship between formula and freedom that are interplaying. So, and to watch which polar end of the scale they are. So yeah, like a Catholic Mass is pretty much the same every time, and then say a free jazz pianist, it could completely wildly go in different directions. And unlike classical Greek performances were a bit like Welsh in the sense that they got this very strict meter, but they would improvise lines around that. So that there's always like a framework of a formulaic element and a free element. But yeah, I try to plan it, but then I try to go with it as much as I can, you know, and like there's lots of things that can change it like a whim, and that's why I use this noise machine. It just brings in some like random element. If it becomes incredibly loud and abrasive, like static coming out of this, then it means that I have to shout then, and also the technology doesn't really work as I expected to ever. Yeah, I think the loop pedal I got is haunted, so it just does whatever it wants. Just yeah, it's possibly I'm trying to replace people with technology here, because the thing about musical improvisation is it's two or more people's intent that are the limits, you know. So it really provides a lot of dynamics that way. Yeah. What was the first thing you asked, Philippe?
Yeah, it was that, like the proportions or the relationship with control, decision, fixed elements, memory also, and the randomness, chaos, errors. I mean, I think there's always a bit of those two areas, sometimes more in one direction than the other. And the other thing I asked you was about the rituals and ceremonies in different contexts and religions. What do you think?
Yeah,
ritual.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, the birds thing. What rather than somebody who like this Albert Pellicer that Ghazal mentioned. It sounds I don't heard of him, but he sounds quite like that he's using it and using the bird as like a point to leap off to create the performance. But there's certain people who like this Deleuze and Guattari becoming animal type thing, like Joseph Baez or somebody, and that seems more relevant to the ritualistic. I could see, yeah, I did a performance once where I was a crow, more than once actually, and it was like you are becoming the animal. So that's the way you would transcribe it, is by becoming the creature, and then we're in the territory of ritual. Yeah.
Added because the performance of Albert that I saw, he also became the bird because he whistled his poem to a bird and listened to the answer of the bird. So he also whistles and translates basically the poem to the bird.
See, I will share a little image in the chat because I play the recorder, and the recorder is an instrument that has been used a lot of times to play bird-like music or tunes or sounds like birds. And there was this book in the 18th century which teaches how to teach the birds some things or record some of their tunes. So it's a very beautiful relationship, not only the voice with the birds, but also the and what with Martin Vaquero we have talked a lot about the birds' language, and it's like a mystical language. In Sufism, there's a tradition in that also. But I like very much this idea of an instrument that can record in a way the tunes from the birds, and also make them learn some new tunes, like a different communication. I will show the image here. I think really beautiful. If I can. Let me see. Well, it's very little, but you can take a look there. Probably it has a virus. And I'll check what you say about Emma Bennett. I don't know her, so.
What do we have to do? Like open it?
Yes, Emma Bennett is yeah, she does this extraordinary thing. She listens to yes, she listens to birdsong on headphones, and then kind of follows the sound of the birdsong, but makes this language that kind of fits the bird. So it's like a kind of homophonic translation of birdsong. But it's yeah, it's quite amazing and very much it provides, because she's really just responding to what she's hearing. So as an audience, you don't hear the bird song, but you hear her coming out with these phrases. But yeah, so it's another way of looking at it.
Language of birds. Did you see the comet that is passing now in the sky tonight?
The comet.
Yeah, there is a comet tonight till the end of the month that is past.
It's cloudy here. We're in Wales. It's thick cloud.
But maybe tomorrow, it's like just over the under the big bear and then or bear. I don't know how to say in English. And then it's happening every 6,000 years.
I know.
Then yeah, it's really, really beautiful. You can see that in the north, like a kind of two tails. One of white and the other one is blue, deep blue, and the mix is a kind of green. Really like
wow.
It's really inspiring in a way. And I don't know what kind of virus factory.
Paradise bird, they say.
Paradise.
I didn't know I was muted. I was just saying, as this book is published in 1936 and analyzes the bird song. It's only English bird though, but here, for instance, and it's also beautiful, all the maps and pictures and notes and like all this stuff, but also in a scientific way, like here is, he translates and writes like birds in a wild state were rendered ritzrug, Widemanzirin, Wengi, Wengia, Baratikam, Redita, Gutiarra, Quakika, Barakika, Pithia, Trevetia, Schwarzgubur. So that's
yeah, they got little rhymes, haven't they, in every language that supposed to do bird song.
I put
a little
this
bit
on one of mine, yeah.
A little bit of bread and no cheese and all these things.
But
Which bird is that?
Yeah, that's a yellowhammer. But it's
That's right,
really
yeah.
it's really interesting, because if you listen to a yellowhammer singing, it actually goes a little bit of bread, cheese, but in the rhyme, it's a little bit of bread and no cheese, because it's telling this story of kind of rural hardship and poverty. And so the way that the bird song is described is actually changed by the lives of the people around it. So it's here a syllable wrong, because we're convinced that there must be no cheese. So
yeah, the scansion is wrong.
Yeah.
And isn't there a version, something and we will die or something? That's the Czech version or something.
The same one, maybe. Yeah.
It's even more bleak. It's like something and we will all die. Yeah, at least get the scansion right. I mean, yeah.
We have someone in France doing this kind of bird talk. His name is Jacques Demarque, but I don't have any book here. But Jacques Demarque, yes, he's doing this kind of things, reminding this French composer also he did that for a long time. I try to find something.
Rhys, I have a question. You had a question about improvisation, and I loved what you presented and the video with the dancer, and I wonder if you, because you're familiar with composing on piano and music, how much that enters into when you're composing on the spot between two pieces of text. So there's a point where you have the two texts and you make it your own, where you're trusting yourself. So then my question is how much you want the audience to get or not get. Does that matter to you? Because for me, improvisation is a feeling, and with your scientific background, how you decide, okay, here, and then just let it flow, and how you were working with the dancer in the video was very, very free form. And as she was moving, you were moving. It was this beautiful, organic dance. I saw no science in that.
Yeah.
But you can find science in it if you want. So I'm curious about your approach to improvisation.
Yeah, there's no scientist left in me now. It's been burnt away terribly. It's gone. Yeah. And when I was a scientist, I was still like more of a jazz scientist than anything. So yeah, I've got that instinct, and it just gave me another vocabulary to play with. And what I found with science is that a lot of it is beautiful if you looked on it artistically, like you would make like DNA gels and they glow in the dark and this sort of thing, and we would use dry ice to smash things to pieces and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that my improvisation is definitely musical, like yours, Edwin. It's like it's the sound probably that, and probably rhythm as well, that is the primary deciding force.
But then there's an aspect of thinking in language that goes towards concrete poetry and towards more organized, which has its place.
Yeah, I've learned to like read without thinking. So I've just got the text. I've usually got texts that I just read them without thinking, and the thinking must be a sonic kind of thinking. I'm trying to make it work almost like a song, but then there must be some poetic decisions in there, but they're quite buried, and they are in like servants of the rhythm or the. It's hard to say, isn't it? How you select? It seems appropriate, isn't it? But I used to do things with a staff, and that is very primal, the rhythmic element. So maybe that's the decider. And then in Welsh poetry, you've got all this consonants, this oeriais, clais, this repetition of rhyme as well. Yeah. So yeah, the scientist is dead, I'm afraid. Yeah.
But it's true that actually when you're, I mean, all the times in the last few years when I've seen you perform, it's very much about the dramatization of reading, and also that it's very important that you are picking up texts, the materiality of like the paper. Often you start a performance by sort of throwing paper down or throwing some books on the floor, and so you're immediately there's a sort of visual signal that we're thinking about something that's written, something that's not coming from from inside you. And I think that's interesting. So I mean, in a way, with the looping, we're sort of getting a different sort of materiality in the performance that you did just now, that you're hearing that echo, but but we're seeing something quite different from your sort of live your three-dimensional performances. So if we can remember such a thing in these two-dimensional days.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, is this is our medium, as Edwin said. We have to adapt to this medium now, and like that's why I've got this technology in order to do something. But when it's live, it's very visceral, you know. I quite often burn myself or something and throw the text, and I'm trying to sort of step outside the text.
Yeah.
Like I'm curating it, and it's the text that's speaking, isn't it? You know, it's more ritual again, yeah. Like I am the shaman who curates it, and the text is speaking, and I'm just like some sort of conduit for the text. Yeah.
But it's, you know, even you burning something, it's not really the same if you can't smell it.
Yeah, I'll pop it through your letterbox in 20 minutes, Zoe. It'll take a bit longer for some of the others, but I'll get something to you, I promise you.
The fire poetry, you know, the same that I think the comet is trying to tell us. If you're in a silent place, you can perceive a kind of vibration. If you look at the same time, that direction is a kind of little hiss and a really good ground. I don't know how to describe it, but it's. I think we have to rehearsal about that kind of silence place, and the more loud in that moment is the louder sound that we can perceive. I think is the comets when the meteorites when coming to the atmosphere, but they are so loud we cannot like listen, just perceive it, you know. And after that is the whales, and the third I forget it. But anyway, I would love if we can like organize something together, like racing in a kind of countryside, and maybe making some from silence to fire and all the elements in a way.
Yeah, that would be great.
But just like trying to see that comment is really inspiring in a way, and I don't know, it's all astrobiology is like thinking that everything is coming from outside, like kind of same as virus or bacteries or everything, and then we are like communicated with the other kind of thinking or another kind of poetry, like us with how we are that frequencies in poetry, you know. I think we have like a kind of political mission or economical, I don't know, but it's a really, please, if you can perceive that, it would be like lovely for the human race, I think. And all the all the trans ecology. Hello, friend. Yeah. Andres, Gerard, everyone. Zoe, I don't know what another. Someone want to ask something to Rhys, or
I have a question.
Yep.
Hey, Rhys, how are you? A nice performance.
Hey, Carlos. How are you?
Do you perform in Welsh as well, right? Not only in English, is that right?
Yeah, so there was some Welsh in that, but yeah.
And there were some words in Welsh.
Yeah,
the reason I'm asking this, I just saw a video on BBC about there were some places that they're changing their names, the original Welsh names, because some people cannot pronounce them or they just don't like how they sound. Like there was this lake, I'm not going to pronounce it, but I think they changed the original name to Lake Australia or something. So my question is about language. Like, do you perform in Welsh because of, I assume it's kind of like an identity thing and responding to kind of like a rich tradition in that language, but is there any kind of like sense of resistance in that gesture?
Yeah. What was the what was the lake originally called, Carlos? It's gonna drive me mad. That yeah.
I think it was Jean Boschling, something like that. I don't know any Welsh, so.
Bochwyd. It's Llyn Bochwyd.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Where's that, Zoe?
It's up. It's up past you, isn't it? It's
Oh, Bochwyd. Oh, it's up there.
Yeah.
It's close to me, that, Carlos. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that really annoys me. That is, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we have like this curious sort of bilingual existence here. So if you're from the south of Wales, you may not have any Welsh. But I had Welsh through school mainly. My parents were like Welsh learners, and then I decided that I would come to the heartland of Welsh language in order to deliberately make myself more fluent. And there is like a resistance. There's like two people almost. Like, I don't know if you find that if you're speaking in another language, your personality is a bit different, you know. And I wanted to explore the Welsh only personality, and then in the poetry I tried to express who I am as accurately as I can, which is like this fight between two tongues, you know, one of which has got the traits of like a linguistic superpower, which is English, and then the other one is like this sort of very primal, fierce, more primitive, kind of angry self, which is the Welsh. So.
And do you use that fight somehow in your creative process?
Yeah, I found very early on that I liked Welsh poetry, and it seemed to like unlock some sort of primal thing in me, and I like the sounds of it. And then I tried to incorporate that into my poetry, and I like the switching between languages as well. A bit similar to maybe Edwin, who's trying to use Spanish and English, and try and triangulate yourself between these two things, and sometimes to deliberately create an effect, but also to try and act out this conflict that I have. Yeah.
You really live it as a conflict? I'm wondering, because in Catalan and Spanish, we have the same kind of situation, but it surprised me that you express it as a conflict.
What's it like with Catalan? Because in Wales, you like, even though it's taught in schools, you feel a bit like that Welsh is not welcome, really. So if like any minority language, you're like you're waiting for a safe place to speak it. So, and there's no clear way of knowing unless you know the person. So, for instance, what people do is to listen for the accent and then try Welsh and see if you can. But everybody speaks English as well, and then you get these situations like Carlos was saying, that, you know, people who are English speaking are angry that the Welsh language still exists, you know, they get this, they get a kind of strange, like dislocation.
The colonialist point of view is the same. I mean, from English and Wales and Spanish and Catalan for sure. But I thought when you was talking before, more than in a political context, let's say, or linguistical political context, I thought you express it as individualistically, that you yourself use this kind of rage with the Welsh language, yeah, to express another kind of poetry and to express this conflict. And that's what I understand that you respond to Carlos, that you use this kind of conflict in your own poetry. And that's what somehow surprised me, because I don't know, you should feel somehow the same easiness or craziness, let's say, or whatever with both languages, right? So that you have by yourself, not by social conflict, but by yourself having opposition in your own Welsh language in a kind of fight, it's strange to me. I don't know if it's exactly how you experience or not.
Obviously, I don't know, the socio-political environment, you absorb that, don't you? So, like and it's a bit, there's like certain taboos with mixing Welsh and English, even though it's mixed up verbally, the literatures are very distinct. So if you were like, do you ever write things that are mixed Catalan and Spanish? Yes. And do you feel at ease doing that? Or?
I feel really easy. In fact, I mix any language I speak. Maybe, yeah, I speak 7 languages. Maybe that's the problem, that I already crossed this line of 2. But I not trouble at all. I mean, I feel more problems in this like social space, let's say, or use of the language. And one language it's overdue, let's say, or on top of the other one. There's problematics for the minority to really reach your own life in your own language. That's for sure. Everywhere it's the same. But personally, as writing or making performance or whatever, I feel easy with any language that that it's moving there in the chip, in the brain, So
yeah, it's got a different flavor for me. Yeah.
To me, the only thing I feel is every language feels different. That's for sure. So there is things that you write in one language and things that you write in another language, and it's mainly because what you are talking about is more suitable with one language or the other. But that doesn't mean that you switch language in one text or one performance makes it, I don't know, conflict or.
Yeah, it's interesting. I find it easy to write, but then like Welsh and English are like chalk and cheese, really. Like in register and structure, they're completely like, they don't really marry together at all. One is Germanic. Like English relates to science very well, for example, and Welsh is always lyrical and always alluding to more simple politics, and it's got this rich sound patterning as well in the traditional Welsh poetry. So I'm trying to like, what have we got? Chariot.
Yeah, it's like the 2 horses, like the switching of 2 language. Not in the same way, and one is like clicking your eye, and the other one is like looking around, and like you're playing two faces in each elbow. You have 2 faces and different the 2 language, and which kind of like anti-corona. I don't know. I feel like kind of that position of like the shaman, now in a moment poet, like that is the same like example that put it Socrates in when he like, talking about the soul in a way. Have in the, I don't know in which text of Platon, but it's like he's saying like I think it's the Fede, no, in Andres. Do you know which writing of Socrates calling like in the, I don't know, it's in the Fede or in one of those, he described the soul like a kind of 2 horses in different directions, like going together for in a kind of opposition that they don't agree, but they are that tension make like a kind of comet or a bird, like going to different states of technology, science, poetry, shamanism, and healing and vibration. I don't know. It's like how you can translate yourself from language to dimensions to elements.
Yeah.
Just to add into, I think writing in 2 languages, other than the fact that we have 2 different characters or 7 different characters, just different characters in different languages, is one thing. But then whether those two languages are in fight or in any kind of relationship of power with each other or not would be another element, because we might not want to go on. So if the text is bilingual, it might not mean that for instance, the text that I read, the English and Persian one, these two languages were not fighting with each other, but it generally meant that, well, English is pushing Persian to the point of being exoticized, and English is having this weird look at Persian, and that gives the chance for Persian to be mischievous. Though there wasn't Portugal? Oh, sorry. So all I'm saying is the position of languages towards each other and the hierarchy of power that they have towards each other, it also has its own dimension that we might not mean it, but it still exists in the text or comes through the performance. And I think the character that we have in each of these languages will just try to channel that relationship of power into the multilingual text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, there's other factors at work. Psychological factors, yeah.
Yeah, I think
because I've only got the two languages, so they just really, so it's not as if if I had as many languages as Altair, maybe I'd feel more plainer about it. I don't know. Zoe, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's you know, if Rhys's work is received in an English-speaking context, I mean, you know, that's always a kind of undecidable thing. You know, in Wales as a bilingual context, so some people are going to be hearing what's happening in the Welsh, but you know, outside of a kind of Welsh-speaking area, that the Welsh in that work is going to be heard as something opaque, as just sound, and I mean, and I think that's something else that's different from, you know, maybe Catalan and Spanish, is just the, you know, the extreme difference between those languages, and so yeah, so it really becomes a kind of friction that works interestingly on English, and you know, sort of subverts it in that way, and you know, so that's what I hear, and then, you know, with that kind of noise performance that Rhys was doing earlier, you know, the bilingual aspect of it, you know, if you're hearing it in English, then you know, that's also how the Welsh can work as this really kind of a political friction on all sorts of levels. But then, you know, but it really depends on, of course, always on where it's being heard. Yeah. So it's really different from somebody doing something in Welsh. I mean, just the mixing is actually in Wales. It's quite provocative for people, for listeners in Welsh or English, because there are all sorts of tensions that are mobilized by that kind of bilingual performance, which is interesting.
Yeah, everybody hates it basically. With your Welsh or English, because Welsh speakers think it's like a crime to mix the languages anyway, and English speakers just, especially monoglots, which we will have as my audience, will just think, they just switch off and it's just noise. So it has to justify itself as noise as well, and then And then there's the added thing of maybe I'm using like scientific language, for example, or some sort of specialized language in English, which is also distancing. And I'm using some sort of medieval line of poetry that I've stolen from somebody in Welsh. So it becomes closer and closer to noise then. But I was going to say, I did some gigs in the US, and I was shouting Welsh poetry, and it was like a completely different thing. And I realized then how dependent it is on the, sociocultural environment. And I did this gig in Brooklyn, and it went down very badly indeed. Yeah, they were scared or something. I'm not sure. Offended.
So, how many people speak Welsh right now?
They think it's about, the last census said 500,000 or so. But as Carlos is saying, like, there's lots of places where Martina.
Yes, I was really like enjoying your performance, and also the last time you show us your hand and your like tattooing your fingers, and I talking with Joaquin Montesfi, who is there like around about that kind of rules of like what can you go like beyond language with that? Can you tell us your secret of the multidimensionality poetry in your new?
Yeah, I've done like quite a lot of performances in non-literary environments, and the technique I found that worked was just to sort of just project it at people with force, with as much force as I can, and that crosses boundaries with body language and embodiedness.
Yeah, but at the same time that forces into the void, into the emptiness, into the like softly way of like of thinking and happening. But it's lovely that kind of like it made me think when I saw the comet last night, that the same, the first letter, that kind of traces in the sky, not only in the sand, and also in the sky. And when you connect that kind of connection from the sand and to the sky, and now they just like discover now that maybe before the human race is when a kind of there is a kind of a parallel into the ground now. That they call it like I read today in a news scientist newspaper, in the International Journal of Astrobiology from Cambridge University. Is a study of two scientists who they demonstrate that there's a kind of another people living inside there, and then the kind of like different connection between the ground, the sea, because the only space in the world that we know that the virus COVID-19 could not exist is in the water of the ocean, the ocean water. There is not COVID inside. They cannot fail. It's not like it's not communicated. Something like a alchemical state. Then maybe we can go to sea to live into the ocean in a moment. Let's go to visit you, Gerard, in a week with Joaquin. We arrive like we go to Joaquin and Maya to visit Gerard and Eduard to Barcelona under I don't know.
It's really fast. I don't know. In 1 week it can be, that we are close again, everyone home. I don't know.
Maybe we stay confined at your flat, making poetry forever and ever. No?
That can be a situation. I don't know. I hope not to be with you, but not because I hope it's not jumping again. But it's been last week and a half. It's been really bad again. So in terms of numbers, I don't know the rest places what's going on, because I'm not hearing that much news or whatever. But yeah, here we have to go with the mask everywhere. I think in France, yeah, they do it as well. I'm not sure.
They are always a mask, the French people now. Kind of like before the COVID, after
Canon.
yeah, after
After
the COVID. No, I don't know. Yeah, but that is why we can connect to the comet. Maybe the new comet is coming from another kind of intelligence who go like going beyond that kind of virus. I think that we have to stop to think that virus and bacteria, they are our enemies. You know, they're not our enemies. They're completely a message, and that is a beautiful in Barros and Brian Geis, and that how they can operate that kind of form, that kind of shape of the idea of virus, the language like a virus, and that is contagious. I think that the Neanderthal people, they were not immunized to that language, and when language arrived to Earth, the Neanderthal disappeared. You know, and all the collection people, because they were nomad, and when they start the agriculture and like the sedentary people say, no, that is mine, that is my home, that is my country, that is my, start everyone like the universe saying, no, stop, you know, like, I don't know. It was so beautiful, the sound during the, people were confined that I think only in that kind of beauty of sound, the only little, I don't know, empty space and at the same time fully of joy that I discovered during confinement was music, sound, you know, like making music and the all kind of things. They make it like sound, some poetry, or I feel really like I'm in my place, you know, in the place of the universe that I can be. I cannot be elsewhere. And yeah, I feel that kind of connection in your work, Rhys, and the work of all of you present here, in a way.
Yeah, we're all alchemical Neanderthal poets. Yes.
Connect you to the comet and tell him more next Wednesday. But I don't know the people that, Joaquim, do you want to say something, or Martin, or Andres, Ana Maria, people that I don't work. I don't remember your name, like MCV. I saw you in the William Rowe reading like many years ago, and I don't remember your, what's your name? William. Stephen, yeah. Stephen, can you send me the...
Sorry, my name doesn't come up on the...
Yeah, of course, I know you.
Sorry.
I just like trying to remember the name, but I...
Yeah, it's lovely to hear you again, Martin.
Yeah, me too. Very happy to be, you can be part of that beautiful connection of things.
Been lovely listening. Very, very lovely.
Ana Maria, can you show us your pictures? That is your drawing, please.
Oh, yes. Wow, cool. Let's see.
Or...
That's brilliant.
Perhaps we could try to read Ana Maria's drawings and writings like a score.
Yeah, could be nice. Maybe you can check the screen and put your drawing of tonight, and we read all together. Puedes poner tu dibujo como una partitura. Claro. Pero tienes que compartir pantalla, ¿no, Felipe?
No es necesario.
¿No?
No, porque es de la cámara, así que...
Okay.
Okay, everyone, do whatever you like.
Right. Which tempo?
Pensar.
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 Pensar, hacer.
Hacer. Pensar. Hacer. Pensar. Hacer. Pensar. Pensar. Hacer. Pensar. Hacer. Pensar. Pensar.
Bird. Bird.
Pensar. Hacer.
Faster. Sign. Bird sign.
Pensar.
Bird sign.
Hacer.
Sign. Bird sign.
Blah 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 blah.
Bird sign.
Colonic orans longitudinal colonic commentary and commentary
You could never understand
teeth in and flies several presentialist teeth in
Ren. Ren. Ren.
What we Read it slowly. Read it
En la que dicen que no dicen nada. Los pájaros es un lenguaje de signos transparentes en busca de la transparencia dispersa de algún significado. Los pájaros encierran el significado de su propio canto en la malla de un lenguaje vacío, malla que es a un tiempo transparente e irrompible. Incluso el silencio que se produce entre cada canto es también un eslabón de esa malla, un signo, y que la naturaleza se dice a sí misma. No es el canto de los pájaros ni su equivalente a la palabra humana, sino el silencio, el que como sentido del mensaje tiene por objeto establecer, prolongar, interrumpir la comunicación para entre ellos a través de los oídos de los hombres y sin que esto se den cuenta. Tan empajarístico, pero los escuchamos en español. Y el español es una lengua opaca, con un gran número de palabras fantasmas. El pajarístico es una lengua transparente, sin palabras.
Linguistic virologist everywhere.